All right, gentlemen, this one's for you. I know what you're thinking about right now. I know exactly what is on your mind. It doesn't matter whether you're at work in a meeting. It doesn't matter whether you're working out, you're sleeping, you're on the toilet, you're on the phone, you're building a house or a bridge. I know what is on your mind. And that is probably sex. And sex is such a taboo topic that we don't talk about now. And we tell men to suppress their sexual appetite. We tell men to not indulge in their sexual urges. And this is true to a point, okay? However, with sexual discipline also comes the understanding of sexual desire, both in men and women. And what I mean by this is usually men have a spontaneous sex drive. And what this means is mostly in part to the hormonal complex that men have the most of, which is testosterone. Men have on average 20 times more, not 20% more, 20 times more testosterone in their system than women do. So this is the reason why men are more aggressive. Men have deeper, consistent sexual urges, because that is the main male sexual hormone that is flowing at 20 times the rate that it is in women. So that is where the spontaneous sex drive really gets driven from. And men are very visual creatures. So when we see also externally, it just activates instantly our urge to want to participate and use some of those hormones, testosterone. Now, men would be described more as microwaves, right? So it's quick, it's spontaneous. We can cook that food quick. It doesn't take much time to heat up. Women, on the other hand, are more like ovens. Okay, so it takes a little time to heat up. It does the same cooking ability, same cooking job. However, it takes a different amount of time for them to reach that sexual arousal spot, right? So what that is a responsive sexual desire style, and women mainly operate off of that desire. So neither one of them are better than the other. Some women will have spontaneous and some men will have responsive also. It's not just classified that you have this and you have that and you're stuck for life. It just is how certain people operate. The majority of men have spontaneous because of testosterone and visual, but the majority of women have a responsive sexual desire style. Now, with that being said, this gives you the information of now how to go down that path so that you can actually figure out what the best combination is for your intimacy, whether you're single and you're meeting women or men, whether you're in a relationship or whether you're married for a long-term a relationship. It is something that is important to understand, because when we look at the top 3 divorce reasons, sexual intimacy is in the top 3 always, forever now. So we need to address this and we need to understand this. And guys, I'm starting with you first, because a lot of times you are abrasive and pushy and, well, if I don't get this and I don't get this, then fine, we're splitting up and I need my needs met and et cetera, et cetera. Well, I guarantee you that woman needs her needs met as well. However, maybe you're just accessing it the wrong way. Maybe you don't understand that there are different sexual responses to desire. And like I just explained, a spontaneous sex drive is something that is ready. Like, you're ready. You wake up, you're on the toilet. It doesn't matter where you are. You want it, and it's an urge. Whereas the responsive style needs more stimulus. It could be visual cues. It could be fantasies. It could be thoughts and mystery. That is more of what warms up women, aka why they are warming up more like an oven versus a microwave with men. So I really wanted to touch base on this because a lot of people have major intimacy problems, and It's only through my own problems and my own research and therapy that I've understood these different types of sexual desire styles. Once you can kind of figure out what yours is, then when you meet your partner, or let's say you're in a long-term relationship, either way, you need to walk back your sexual intimacy and understand with your partner, have a conversation, communication with your partner about the different types of desired styles, right? So now this gives you a platform to really correct course on what your sexual intimacy looks like right now or moving forward when you meet somebody. Yes, it matters. Yes, you should talk about it. I don't, for the life of me, understand why it's so taboo and we don't give advice or talk about it or have any type of mentors around this topic. It is something that everybody needs as a connection source. You know, most of the time, and just in my own personal experience, I can't get that emotional connection until I get the physical connection first. It just is how I work. Now, on the reverse side, my partner is more of, she needs the emotional connection before the physical connection can even start. And that's not a problem. Nobody's wrong in that situation. It's just learning each other's styles and what each other's needs are. Now, with that being said, it's not a checklist. You can't just sit there and go down a checklist and say, honey, did you do this, that to make sure that my style of desire is turned on and ready? You can't do that because now you're just, completing a checklist for intimacy, and it can't be that way. Now, another thought real quickly here while I end this is when we first start dating, it's basically making arrangements to connect. And whether it's a date and you connect emotionally and then it eventually leads to physical, a lot of people say that they can't find that time for physical intimacy if they're in a relationship or a long-term relationship or just starting out, whatever it is. You have kids, you have life gets in the way, etc. However, when you first dated, you made time for that person. You made sex dates, basically. Even though it wasn't called sex dates or intimacy dates, it was setting a time to access your intimacy, whether it was emotional first and then physical or all emotional. And then the next date was you set times and scheduled in your own dates. So if you have such a skewed schedule now and you can't find to get back on course with it and you and your partner are frustrated, starting out by scheduling date nights. And those date nights turn into more usually because it's what you did in the beginning to even meet each other and connect in the first place. But then you abandoned it. You had all that honeymoon energy and it worked out so great. But then what happened? Everybody wants to go back to the beginning. Yeah. All right. A long-term relationship, same person, especially when you live with them, it's going to get monotonous. And we are kind of the only creatures that are doing monotony with one partner for the rest of our lives. So we need to kind of hack what we call monogamy here. And we need to kind of understand why we even started this in the beginning. Why did we even start having these dates? Because they were kind of access to connection, whether it's emotional, physical, like I'm saying, but you set aside time for you guys to connect. And ultimately, when you set aside time and you emotionally connect, it starts to turn into a physical connection, which is your physical intimacy in your relationship. I hope this can help you. I really want to start harnessing this understanding of connection in your relationships, because so many relationships are ending because of the lack of intimacy and not being on the same page and thinking you have different libidos. And that's true. I mean, there are people that have different libidos. However, it doesn't mean that you have to end that relationship. There are ways to backstep and backtrack and start getting on the same page of communication and conversation so you know each other's desires, sexual desire style. So then now you can play certain parts off of there and really reconnect and harness the physical intimacy that's going to keep the glue of your relationship together. Till next time, guys.